all this happening because you started believing, you started to be patient, you started to understand what we were trying to do.
Mikel Arteta's Arsenal have found a new gear, and frankly, it's terrifying. Because this isn't just another purple patch or a lucky run of results. This is something deeper. This is structural evolution. Not long ago, the atmosphere was very different. 3 games without a win, a draining, frantic draw against Liverpool where the legs looked heavy, drop points against Nottingham Forest, a match where Arsenal owned the ball, lived in the final third, but lacked the surgical incision needed to kill the game. And then the breaking point, the defeat at Manchester United. That loss didn't just hurt the league table, it sparked a crisis of identity. The questions were no longer whispers, they were shouts. Had Arteta's obsession with control become a straitjacket? Was this football too rigid, too rehearsed, too trapped in its own geometry to actually breathe when the pressure reached a boiling point? But what followed didn't just answer those questions, it rendered them obsolete. A 4-0 demolition of Leeds United at Elland Road, an XG, expected goals gap that looks like a typo, 2.39 to 0.15, 14 shots, 12 corners, 8 shots on target, a 7-point lead restored. But it wasn't just the scoreline, it was the way it happened. Bukayo Saka pulls up in the warm-up, a potential disaster. Noni Madueke steps in and immediately bends the game to his will. Gabriel Martinelli, usually the king of the left, switches to the right and suddenly looks like a new signing. And Victor Gyokeres, the man accused of being starved of service, he's suddenly feasting. This isn't the Arsenal we saw in autumn. This version is freer, more expressive, and exponentially harder to plan for. So, what did Arteta actually change in the dark days following that United loss? How did he turn a rigid structure into a fluid masterpiece without losing an ounce of control? Today, we're breaking down why this Arsenal isn't just winning, they are evolving into the most dangerous tactical machine in Europe. Moments define seasons. For Arsenal, the 3-2 loss to Manchester United was the ultimate mirror moment. It forced Arteta to look at his creation and ask, is this working? On paper, the performance wasn't a collapse. Arsenal had the territory. They had the possession. They had long spells where the game looked exactly how Arteta draws it up in his sleep. And yet they lost. The criticism that followed was telling. It wasn't about a lack of heart or fitness. It was about expression. The consensus was forming that Arsenal had become too safe. The control-heavy model, once praised for its maturity, was now being framed as a cage. It was too predictable. If you knew where the wingers would be and where the pivots would sit, you could defend against them with your eyes closed. The numbers backed up the eye test. High possession, but inconsistent goal returns. The issue wasn't chance creation in a vacuum. It was the nature of those chances. Everything felt choreographed, like a ballet where the dancers were so worried about hitting their marks that they forgot to move the audience. This is where the Gyokeres problem started. People asked if he was getting service. But the real issue wasn't the delivery, it was the lack of chaos. Arsenal were so busy maintaining their shape that they weren't unsettling the opposition's shape. The service to the striker was often clean but late, allowing defenders to double up before the ball even arrived. Arteta didn't panic. He didn't chase chaos for the sake of it. He didn't tear up the blueprint. Instead, he recalibrated. He realized Arsenal didn't need more of the ball. They needed more imagination within the possession they already had. If you look at the team sheets, Arsenal still look the same. It's still a 3-2-5 in possession. It's still a 4-3-3 defensive block. But the behavior has shifted from cosmetic to clinical. First, verticality. Earlier in the season, Arsenal were guilty of U-shaped possession, passing around the back and sides, waiting for a perfect opening. Now, they are hunting vertical lanes much sooner. The ball is traveling through the lines, not just around them. Second, positional ambiguity. This is the big one. In the rigid era, the wingers hugged the touchlines like their lives depended on it. Now the rotations are constant. You'll see a winger drift into the number 10 space, a fullback underlap into the box, and a midfielder pop up on the wing, all in the same attacking sequence. Look at their recent Champions League performances. Against elite, disciplined blocks, Arsenal didn't just recycle the ball to death. They punched passes into the half spaces. They accelerated the game at will. They created moments of dynamic overload where the defense is outnumbered not because of where Arsenal started, but because of where they moved to. This is what expressive looks like in a system-driven team. The players still respect the zones, but they are no longer prisoners of them. Structure is just a map. You still need the right drivers. The return of Kai Havertz has been the silent revolution of this system. Havertz doesn't need to dominate the ball to dominate a game. He is a master of connecting phases. He receives on the half turn, draws two defenders to him, and releases a runner. He shortens the distance between the control phase and the kill phase. Because Havertz is constantly haunting the space between the lines, defenders have a nightmare choice. Step up to stop Havertz and leave space behind for Gyokeres. Drop deep to cover the run and let Havertz turn and pick a pass. If you love the beautiful game, stick with us. Subscribe and see all our future football videos. Then you add Gabriel Jesus. While Havertz connects play vertically, Jesus disrupts it laterally. He drifts, he drops. He drags center backs into areas they hate to be in. Together, they've restored unpredictability. Even Martin Odegaard looks reborn. Because he doesn't have to carry the entire burden of progression anymore, he can be more selective and more lethal with his final ball. The 4-0 win at Leeds was the proof of concept. When Bukayo Saka, the heartbeat of the team, was ruled out, the old Arsenal might have struggled. But Noni Madueke stepped in and provided a masterclass in directness. However, the real eureka moment came in the second half. Arteta didn't just look to see out the game. He introduced Gabriel Martinelli, but instead of putting him on the left, he stuck him on the right. This was a tactical curveball that Leeds simply couldn't hit. Leeds had spent 60 minutes adjusting to a traditional right-sided winger. Suddenly, they had Martinelli, a right-footer on the right, who wasn't crossing from the touchline, but attacking the inside-out channel. Look at the third goal. Odegaard finds space. Martinelli explodes into the gap between the full-back and center-back. The cross is early, whipped in before the defense can breathe. Gyokeres finishes. It looks simple, but it was a masterstroke of in-game adaptation. Arteta didn't wait for the post-match analysis to fix a problem. He engineered a solution in real time. He changed the profile of the zone without breaking the structure of the team. That is the hallmark of a coach at the peak of his powers. To understand why this evolution is real, just look at the variety. Arsenal's 4 goals against Leeds came from a set piece, a high-press turnover, a wide cross, and a central combination. You can't just sit deep against this team anymore. They'll pick you apart. You can't press high. They'll bypass you. You can't even focus on one wing. They'll just swap the personnel and hurt you from the other side. Arsenal didn't panic after United. They didn't abandon the blueprint. They sharpened it. They made it breathe. When a team that already has elite control learns how to express itself with this much freedom, they stop being contenders. They become the standard. This isn't a team peaking too early. This is a team that has finally figured out how to be both the hammer and the scalpel. And if you're a rival manager watching this tape, terrifying is exactly the right word. What do you think is the biggest factor in Arsenal's recent form? Is it the return of Havertz or Arteta's tactical flexibility? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep tactical dives.